Hello and welcome to today's Intertrade Ireland online session for SMEs on COVID and beyond. I'm Niamh Collins, Director of Programmes and Operations at the DC Rhine Academy, and this is an All-Ireland Innovation Programme event, of which DC Rhine Academy is one of 4 university partners, and they include University College Cork, Queen's University Belfast and NUI Galway. We are delighted today to welcome guest speaker, international rugby star turned entrepreneur and investor, Jamie Heaslip. Jamie captained the Irish rugby team in 2012 and 2013 and is one of the most outstanding and recognised players in the history of Irish rugby. On retiring after a 13-year professional rugby career, Jamie transferred his leadership and teamwork skills from the field of sport to business, successfully investing in a variety of enterprises and startups. Today, Jamie will share his entrepreneurial journey with journalist Maria Ralston, revealing insights on how to seek out business opportunities, get investment in Ireland and cope in a crisis. We invite you to interact with us on Twitter today using the hashtag AIIP seminars and the Twitter handles at inter_trade and at Rhine Academy. And you can also tag at Jamie Heaslip or pop your comments and feedback below on YouTube.
Hi Jamie, thanks so much for joining us today for this Intertrade Ireland All-Ireland Innovation Session for SMEs. You probably need no introduction as you've had a really interesting and successful career, but we'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about your journey yourself from academic studies to sport and then business.
In terms of my introduction to the real world, I started in DCU and I started out doing medical mechanical engineering in DCU. And while I was doing that, I was kind of playing rugby, and I did my finals in DCU in May. Come June 1st, I was a full-time professional. That took off so fast for me as a professional that I didn't even get to go to my graduation for DCU. So my parents, I'm the only one out of my house that doesn't, in my parents' house, they don't have to pick the kind of graduation photo up. Just it took off from there, and that was incredible. Like the rugby journey was an incredible journey that lasted. Like I turned pro in 2005, and I finished in 2018. So I got 13 years as a full-time professional. But I've been playing rugby since I was 8 years old. But throughout the time, I started looking at businesses, started looking at industries that I was interested in. First one was a restaurant, which made sense. I like food. Restaurants do food. I thought it was a pretty good fit. And I kind of kicked on from there. And actually the very second investment that I ever made was off the back of my medical mechanical engineering degree in a company called Kitman Labs. What Kitman was doing, it was taking the data, using it at first to try and predict and prevent injuries and reduce down the injury profile of a squad. Because at the time, the average cost to a Premiership soccer team of a player getting injured was about £300,000, and we could reduce down the injury profile on average about 33% of a squad. So you can obviously very quickly see the big savings they could make as long as we get a price point right and all that sort of stuff. But big savings they can make from very simple investments, and that's mushroomed into something else now, and they're going great. But what I'm trying to get at, it started out in fields that I was interested in and kind of understood.
And Jamie, as an investor, how do you seek out business opportunities and what do you look for in a startup or SME?
I try and stay informed first. Then I use my network to meet these different people that are coming out with different ideas. I'm quite Irish centric on that front because that's the network that I'm plugged into. Every company that I have invested in has been an Irish company, and there's plenty of them coming around. And then when I meet a person, and I like the idea as such, it's more about them, the founders, what they're about, their values, their culture, because they'll set the whole tone for that company for the next while. And then when you start getting into the idea and the nuts and bolts of it, that's where I start leaning back on kind of the network of people who I bounce ideas off. Because I know I've got a load of weak points like everyone else, so I try and collaborate with other people and use their strengths, because you got to remember, coming from the sporting world, that's pretty much what you do. You, particularly in rugby, you've got 15 different types of players of body shapes and skill types, quite skill specific zones, but then at the same time you've all got to be able to sing off the same hymn sheet and be pointed in the right direction and be going towards the same goal. So that's the importance of like vision, mission, culture and values in terms of being pointed in the right direction. then you got to give people the autonomy to be stay in their lane in terms of their specific skill set. Like I could not do what, as much as I'd want to think I could do, I can't do what a number 10 does, or what a winger does, or what a prop does. At the same time, they can't do what I do. But then there is a basic kind of standard that we all can do. So when it comes to this world, that's what I do. I kind of, okay, I've got my finance guy. I might find, a particular expert in terms of whatever that industry is in. And very first and foremost, the culture and the value is at the forefront of anything that I'm doing. When you get a really good person and they're really smart too, and they've got a really good idea, like Mark Cummins from Pointee is case in point.
Yes, so you invested in B2B e-commerce startup Pointee, which was sold to Google earlier this year for a substantial figure. Can you tell us how you knew you were onto a winner when you met Pointee co-founder Mark Cummins?
I meet him, we get introduced, we're chatting away. Love the idea because it's like a David and Goliath kind of story. Love those stories. Pointee was driving community shops and driving the importance of the community, supporting that. And then you had Mark then as well. So I was like, great idea, love it. Then you have Mark, who's the first guy to sell a company outside of the US to Google. Yeah. And here he is with another idea. I was like, right, he's got the hard skills, he's got the expertise in the field. I love the idea. And then you talk to him and he's an amazing man. Like, and on another case in point, just to show that he made sure that all the staff were going on that journey from Pointee into Google. And I'm pretty sure he was able to make sure that all the staff were acquired full time in Google, which is amazing because some of them they're literally kids, fresh out of college, starting out in their journey, and they're straight into an environment like that.
And Jamie, how do you use your network to make connections that lead to new opportunities?
It's just important to put yourself out there and make the introductions, because particularly in these, like in the startup community, I think most people are open to helping and meeting, even if it's with introductions. Again, as long as you're a nice person, because like the flip side of being so small is that your reputation is everything, and that kind of comes into your brand. So that's your brand as yourself, but also as a company or what you're representing. Ireland's a small place, so you've got to be very true to your word and your values, and because that will get around.
Moving on to the current situation, as an entrepreneur and business leader, how have you reacted and responded to the COVID crisis?
Very, very quickly. As a leader, you had to do. You couldn't stick your head in the sand, and you had to get very clear on what was the core part of your business. What drove revenue, what drove cost, how it affected margins. You basically have to get a real fact check, and then you had to make some fast and tough decisions. So throughout the whole time, though, the leaders we were talking to that were that had that growth mindset, that were communicating quite clearly, and adapting throughout the whole time, and forward planning, making a plan, communicating it. And sometimes they had to adapt it, but at least they had a roadmap as such. And they were the ones that were having a little bit of I don't want to say success, but were able to keep their head above the water anyway.
You're currently head of brand marketing for fintech company Flender, a peer-to-peer lending firm that you have also invested in. How important are marketing and communications in a time of crisis, and how have you responded in that area in Flender?
It's a very, very good question, because one of the first things that goes in a lot of budgets is marketing. Mm-hmm. And the CEO comes to me and he kind of tells you, we're going to build out a team as such, and you're going to have good marketing spend. We have to put all that on pause. Mm-hmm. Because the business model was running at a negative burn rate, because that's how we were trying to scale, and using venture capital to do it that way, right? Like a lot of startups, we had to make some decisions in terms of, do we want to try and grab mass market? Do we want to just curate the people that we have, our tribe essentially, and really kind of get like that whole 1,000 true fans kind of thinking. And so, that's we place an emphasis on using the channels that are free. So social media channels, using the free part of Zoom, for example, to record interviews and share the insights from companies that are either using our platform or not even using our platform, but companies that are pivoting, that are adapting and finding solutions, and sharing that value with our tribe. And I think that's really important, that you keep your brand keeps providing value to your customers. Even like, people make the mistake that marketing is just sell. I'm a little bit, I think you got to be very clean. Yes, at times you can sell to them and let them know that you're selling, but also you got to provide value to them that isn't necessarily buy this, buy that. It's, here's something free, here's something of value to you, that's free. And we've been trying to do that, trying to adapt to it. And then obviously the challenges that are on the business, how we kind of adapt to that then as well as a business. Hasn't been easy, obviously. Everyone's facing their challenges, particularly in the world of peer-to-peer lending that we're in. But it's been really interesting, because when you started seeing the trend of COVID-19 coming, you could see that we were seeing an uptick of businesses actually looking for contingency funds. But then as it kind of hit Ireland and stuff, that demand went down. But actually we saw an uptick then in activity on retail lenders. So like, people who come to the platform to put money on it to lend because they wanted to help Irish SMEs. They weren't getting a return on their money on the bank as such. And so it was really interesting to see the two kind of pieces come together. And then also how we were getting the institutional funding part of it. And our alternative asset finance company that were actually Italian at the time in northern Italy. So it was, you were getting insight from them, and it was really interesting to get the different perspectives on it, which definitely helped me then apply that to the different businesses across my portfolio as such.
And have you applied any skills acquired in sport to help you cope personally during the crisis?
Everyone went through a daily journey of, how am I feeling today with all this? Sometimes you were like, yes, we're going to do it. Other days, I think you were like, oh my God, like, we're doomed or something. And I think that, look, that's just natural with an uncertain kind of outcome. And that's what comes back to what I was saying of, okay, let's try and make a plan here. Okay, yeah, we might have to adapt the end goal, but let's set a goal and aim for that. And if we have to change it, we have to change it, right? So I think having that clarity gives people a little bit of confidence and a bit of calmness. And that's how I kind of went through it. And in terms of sport, you very quickly got used to not being able to control the outcome. You can control the process to a certain degree, so you can control the controllables. So what can you manage? Okay, I can control X, Y, and Z. Grand. Okay, what can you influence a couple of things as well going forward here? Yeah, A, B, and C. And then there's certain things you just have to accept. And there's certain things that you don't have control of, and you don't know if you're going to win the game. And you don't know going into a tackle if you're going to get hurt or not. But you trust your process and training that it's going to work out for you in the long term. You know what I mean? And so when you take that, you kind of take that into business. And so it's like pitching for a client, right? You can put all the work in, put a real good deck in, know the market, have all the different insights, and know it all the knowledge, give the presentation as such, but you don't know if you will get the backing. And that's kind of out of your hands. Getting comfortable in that ambiguity and uncertainty is something that sport has given me, but it also makes the importance of putting the work in. If you don't put the work in, I can guarantee you're more than likely not going to get it. So you got to put the work in, you got to stick with it. It's kind of like compound interest, right? You got to keep just applying it. I love the Hemingway phrase of, gradually then suddenly. People think, people look at Pointee and go, wow, that's an overnight success. No, It wasn't. There's a lot of work put in. All those companies, there's hard work put in, but the compound effect of it, it gets you that big moment as such. It can't, just like in sport. I mean, people aren't talking about your training in June and July when you're winning trophies the following year in May and June. You know what I mean? They're just focusing in on that moment.
You're also the co-owner of several Dublin pubs. Can you tell us how those businesses have innovated and adapted during COVID?
You know, under the government guidance, we had to, guidelines to shut down, and it was the right decision by the government to shut down kind of the pubs, the restaurants, all that. Wasn't easy. You know, overnight we went from 70 people to 1, and even that one person had to dramatically reduce down their wages. That was the hardest thing with the staff, if I'm honest. And we closed them down, and then, like everyone, we were in this kind of unknown area of, okay, when are we open back up, and can we serve drink, can we not? And and then as we got a bit of, the fog started to clear a little bit, and we could see what we can and can't do, and some pubs started delivering drinks, for example, to people's residents and stuff. We got clarity on that law around that, in terms of it being 100 meters off the premises and all that sort of thing. You've seen pubs kind of adapt, and you'll see restaurants adapt, and that's all you can do. You can, like, very quickly, cut all the costs, which we all did, in different, like, rates. You manage all the stakeholders essentially, and what your cost base is, and then start planning for how it looks like when you reopen under the new guidelines. The good thing of it is, like, where we went from 70 down to 1, we now have 6 people back hired in one of our pubs, which is really, really good. And I hope to be able to get most, if not all, the staff of 70 people across 2 pubs back in business soon.
My final question for you today, Jamie, is that despite all the challenges SMEs are facing as a result of COVID-19, what opportunities do you think this crisis could bring for entrepreneurs and SMEs?
I think what came out of the last, we had Stripe, Instagram, all these different things came out of the last big recession of 08, 09. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what ideas and companies come out of this. And that's really, really exciting. Because especially in our island, we have a really educated workforce that are getting more and more used to that whole startup world, and how you finance it, and how you bring it to life, and you're having the government get behind it. You're getting different enterprise offices are behind it as well. Really exciting to see what ideas come out of it.
Jamie, thank you so much for your time today and for your insights on entrepreneurship, investing and innovating in a crisis. I think you've shared some really useful tips and advice for SMEs everywhere. Thank you also to Maria and everyone watching. And don't forget, if you have any comments or feedback on this event, please tweet using the hashtag AIIP seminars, and the Twitter handles are at @inter_trade and at Rhine Academy, and of course at Jamie Heaslip, or pop your comments and feedback below on YouTube. Thank you also to Intertrade Ireland and to the DC Rhine Academy for supporting this event, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the All Ireland Innovation Programme online series for SMEs over the coming months.